Chelsea are a real mess right now. They've only taken 5 points from their first 6 league games, and they've only managed to beat Luton so far this season, and I believe things could go from bad to worse for them. There are a number of issues at Chelsea that are going to damage them in the long term, and I've got 3 key reasons as to why this is the case. The first one has to be the length of the contracts. Chelsea are going to have a real issue with the sort of contracts they're giving out. I understand this is how they're trying to get around financial fair play issues, and this is how Todd Boehly's trying to introduce more American-style sports contracts into football, but I just don't think they're going to work. Let's look at Mudryk, for example, okay? He's been given an 8.5-year contract. He was given that in January last year when they signed him, meaning that he's going to be at the club until 2031. He's currently earning around 100 grand a week, but let's say that he never comes good, right? Because right now he hasn't looked very good, and there's a chance that he just never turns into that great player that some people believe he could be, right? Or let's even just say he has a major injury and has to retire early. No matter what, he's going to be earning 100 grand a week at Chelsea. They're stuck paying him that money no matter what now. Regardless if he plays well, if he trains well, he's going to get paid 100 grand a week. And you think, he won't move to anywhere else because no one's going to give him a contract longer than what he's got at Chelsea, or, with wages as high as what he's getting at Chelsea. And there is somewhat precedent for this, because you've seen it happen at Manchester United, sort of like what's happening right now, where they give out wages way too high to players, much higher wages than the player's actually worth. Then you see the likes of Sancho, Maguire and Wan-Bissaka, who are just going to be stuck there for a few years now, because even someone like Maguire, there was offers which Man United accepted in the summer, but he refused to move because at the end of the day, he's not going to get paid what he's getting at Man United anywhere else. And then these players, they're not going to be motivated because in their head, they've made it now because they're going to get paid hundreds of thousands of pounds a week at one of the biggest clubs in the world, regardless of whether they play. And that's why I think giving out long contracts in football just doesn't really work. And then the second key reason has got to be the profile of player that they're buying. So it's not just them giving out big long contracts, they're spending huge amounts of money on relatively unproven players. They've spent almost $1 billion under Boehly, and I honestly don't think the squad's any better than the one which won the Champions League, which he inherited when he took over. They're sort of like an obsession with young players in football, and Chelsea are like a great example of that. I mean, it's all well and good to be a young squad full of potential who could come really good, but the issue is that they could come good, not that they will. To name just a few, Mudryk came in for over £100 million and looks bang average so far. Obviously, a young player with potential, but for £100 million, you don't pay for a potential, you pay for an instant impact. Look at what Jude Bellingham's done when he's gone to Real Madrid. He was £100 million. That's instant impact that he's given them straight away. I mean, prior to his move to Chelsea, he'd only played a handful of professional games in his career. I mean, in comparison to Harvey Barnes, who's Premier League proven, has scored plenty of goals in his career, right? Went to Newcastle for what, less than half of what Mudryk was. And looking at Enzo Fernandez, £100 million for a player who had, 6 good months and a World Cup win. I mean, he's looked good so far, even great since he's gone to Chelsea. But again, £100 million is far too much money for that player. And then Caicedo, again, that's another player for over £100 million after one good season in the Premier League. I think it's all just a bit crazy. I mean, they're obsessed with buying these young players with the hope of, I imagine, maybe selling them in the future, because you have to bear in mind that Todd Boehly is a businessman. He's bought Chelsea to make money. He's obviously seen that football in Europe is totally unregulated compared to American sport, and there's boatloads of money to be made if you look at what Brighton do. So I think he's trying to do that where you buy these players young and then aim to sell them on in the future. But then the initial fee they're buying them for is way too much, and I think they've sort of misunderstood how this all works. And look, I do understand that the net spend isn't as bad as the gross spend, as the sales of players have been quite good. In terms of removing deadwood, I think they've done a pretty good job at that, but they've probably gone a little bit too far and sold some players who they should have kept. Look at players like Havertz, Koulibaly, Kepa, Ziyech. I think they're all sort of good to get rid of them. You know what I mean? They don't really offer anything to the team anymore, especially someone like Havertz, who was atrocious. And then, Koulibaly, who had a really poor first season. Kepa, I know that's a loan, but then obviously Mendy went on a permanent, didn't he, to Saudi. And then Ziyech as well, I think he's left on a free to Turkey. I don't think any of them were really offering anything major to the squad and all. It was worth getting rid of them for the money which they're going to bring in. But then I look at players like Mason Mount, Loftus-Cheek and Kovacic, and I feel like they're being left quite light in midfield now, and that lack of depth is going to be an issue for them later in the season. And again, I understand why he saw like Mount and Loftus-Cheek. They're both academy graduates, which means that on the balance sheet, the net profit you make on those players, it's all profit, isn't it? Because you didn't buy them for anything. But still, I don't really think they're players who you should be losing. Because the fact that, European giants, Manchester United and AC Milan were in for them shows that they're clearly quality players. And then one in particular I don't understand at all is Callum Hudson-Odoi, right? Sold him for £3 million to Notts Forest. And he would be a starting left winger for Chelsea right now, in my opinion. I don't get it. Because if you think, what, is Mudryk £97 million better than Hudson-Odoi? He's just not. It doesn't make any sense. Look, in my opinion, football clubs should be run in a somewhat sustainable way, and how Chelsea are going right now is anything but that. At some point, this all is going to crash and burn. Things just don't keep getting bigger and bigger forever. It just defies logic, right? Player wages and transfer prices aren't just going to keep going up and up and up. Eventually, it's going to peak, then it's going to fall off, it's going to drop off, and then clubs like Chelsea, who have speculated far too much in the market, are going to have to pay the price for that. And then the third key reason as to why I don't think this is going to work out is that their squad is just far too big. It's going to be so difficult to coach him. Potter had this exact issue last season, and I'm sure Poch is going to have it as well. It also makes it really difficult to give out game time. There's like 30 players who are all desperate to play, competing for 11 spots. It means that Chelsea don't know their best 11, and the young players who are at Chelsea can't develop because they're not getting the game time to develop, which even means this whole idea of buying young players, developing them to sell them isn't even going to work because they're not getting the game time to improve. And it also means all the players who aren't playing are going to kick up issues in the dressing room and cause, off the field issues for Chelsea. And just finally, after all the money they've spent, you look at the starting lineup against Villa, for example, okay? You take Brighton's team over that, you take Arsenal's team over that, take Spurs' team over that, you take Man City's, you take Man United's, you take Liverpool's, you take Newcastle's. Right there, that's 7 teams who have a better starting 11 than Chelsea after all the money they've spent. Then I'd even argue like Aston Villa probably has an equivalent, if not better, squad. You could argue there's 8 teams in the Premier League with a better squad after all the money they've spent. It doesn't make any sense how they've spent that much and they've stagnated still. But look, this is just my opinion on the whole thing. Any Chelsea fans who have a better understanding of this situation, feel free to disagree in the comments down below. But yeah, this is all I've got to say on this topic. Thanks for watching.